First I met God, then I was God. An Amanita Muscaria trip report by Synthesis, uploaded to earwid.org, April 5th, 2011. Prelude. I'd taken a philosophy class called Comparative Religions, and I was also currently taking a class called Philosophy of Science. I regard the latter as a bit of waste of time, as we largely talked about what can be known, perception, and various other completely subjunctive things. Every week we have to write a single-spaced, one-page paper, and in my most recent paper, I'd brought up the futility of the free will versus determinism debate, see subjectivity. I also had recently done some reading about theories on the origin of the universe. The comparative religions class was useful, in that I learnt that I don't need to be able to find an organised religious body that is in line with what I believe and what I am like personality-wise. I can find my own path instead. Unfortunately, I didn't have anyone I knew that could fill the role of a sitter, so I was alone in my room, where I spent most of my time anyway. Intermezzo. My previous attempts involved roughly 12 grams and 16 grams of dried, commercially available Amanita Muscaria. Nothing happened both times though. Of course, all my research suggested that something definitely should have happened, especially at those doses. Some accounts I had read cited 5 to 15 grams as being more than the user had bargained for. In reality, the potency of these mushrooms varies substantially, making them risky for first-timers. Later on, I bought another 28 grams, but of a lower grade. I thought about doing a 20 to 22 gram dose, but that would have left me with a useless 6 to 8 grams of a leftover dose based on previous experience. So, I foolishly ingested the whole 28 grams on an empty stomach. It was about 30 minutes later when I started to feel sick to my stomach. I ate a few tortilla chips since I'd eaten the mushrooms on an empty stomach thinking that would help. It didn't, but keeping still seemed to help. I decided to lie down on my bed. I closed my eyes and began to feel relaxed. I started into a state of daydreaming, hypnagogia. My breathing was slightly depressed, and as I was breathing, I imagined 4 tanks of air as if it were an icon in the lower right corner of a video game, and as I breathed out, I filled the 4 tanks. The next thing I recall was that I experienced the creation of the universe to its heat death in a single blink of the eye, over and over and over again. I pretty much had reached a delirious, poisoned state. The strange thing was though, that there was this brief pain sensation associated with the process. It was as if my fragile human psyche couldn't handle the concept of infinity. At first I thought I was dreaming, but the repetitiveness clued me into the fact that I was tripping. After a while, I thought I had died and merged with God. Then, I thought I was God, but it wouldn't stop. I thought, oh, please God, make it stop. But I was God, and it wouldn't stop at all. I thought I had died and gone to hell. I started freaking out. I couldn't see and wasn't aware of having a mouth and a voice. I tried to will myself out of the trip with each successive creation of the universe, but it didn't work. I could feel the keys and wallet in my pockets. I could feel the carpet on the floor, but all I experienced was the Big Bang, over and over. To this very day, I couldn't tell you if my eyes were open or closed throughout the experience. I believe I eventually got used to the painful sensation I felt before, or that it went away by itself. I was experiencing infinity, and began to play little games to keep from going crazy. Don't ask me how I know this, but what would happen is that I would tell the Jews I was Yahweh, the Christians I was Jesus, the Muslims I was Allah, the Hindus I was Brahman, the Chinese I was the Tao, and so on and so forth. Can't remember what else I tried, but every time, everything would happen just the way it happened before, and I couldn't change anything. It was like I, as God, was always one step ahead of me. Each time the universe was created, everything happened exactly the same, exactly the way it was supposed to happen. I did eventually come down, about 2 hours after I'd laid down. However, this repeating motif continued as I experienced coming down and seeing my TV, which I had left on, and so it seemed like I wasn't really coming down per se. It was as if I was finally coming to, only to have the feeling of coming down repeat over and over again. It did stop eventually, which involved me sitting up and throwing up in the wastebasket which I'd prepositioned just for this situation. My heart was pounding like crazy and I gasped for air. It was as if I had died and was reborn. I hadn't even left my bed during the whole time. Whenever I decided to move to another room, my recollections would fade out, and then things would fade in and I would find myself in the room I wanted to be in. I got up and went to the bathroom, and also took out my contacts at this time. I wanted to go back to bed and just go to sleep because I felt exhausted. I went back to make sure I'd taken out both contacts. My vision was fuzzy, and it looked like I'd only taken out one of my contacts. I looked for the other one on the floor, but I couldn't find it. I repeatedly went back looking for my contact, only to eventually find that I'd actually put both of them in the same side of the case. I went to bed after this, but before I did, I turned off all the lights around the apartment. This was much more difficult than it sounds, as I would turn off one light and forget to turn off another, but I'd realised this when I was already back in my room, as time would jump around on me. The next day, after awakening, I felt a certain calm and connectedness to everything around me. I can still feel it sometimes, if I stop and relax and remember to breathe.